The House of Drear, Chapter 9, Part 4. Mr. Small threw back his head and laughed. The awing sound, you say, led you to the platform? I guess it did, said Thomas. It had to be coming from there. What's so funny? And it was the same sound you heard in the tunnel under the steps? Yes, the same sound, Thomas said. He looked doubtfully at his father. Thomas, I should have told you about that place before now, but I suspected you would enjoy discovering it for yourself. I never thought you would find it at night. You see, said Mr. Small, that platform is one of the two openings in the cave in which Mr. Pluto lives. He lives in a real cave? Thomas said. It's dry and clean, said Mr. Small. It's as good a house as any above ground. It might even be better because it stays fairly dry. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a good deal about it. Mr. Pluto is a blacksmith's son, continued Mr. Small. At least that's what he did for a living a long time ago, when there were enough horses in these parts to make his line of work worth doing. That awing sound you heard, along with the sign, couldn't have been anything more than his bellows working. I didn't hear it when I went to see if there was anyone in the tunnel under the steps. I suppose that's why I didn't guess before now what that sound was. Pluto must have heard you walking on the roof of his house. Tell me, did you hear that sign once the doors in the platform had opened? I don't believe I heard it after that, Thomas said. That's it then, said Mr. Small. When Pluto heard you, he thought you were one of the town boys who liked to fool with him. He climbed up out of that opening to scare the wits out of anyone out there, and he sure did. I see, said Thomas sheepishly. But I still don't understand how that sound could have been in the trees and in the tunnel under the house, too. That's not hard, said Mr. Small. Air currents caused it. This whole place is crisscrossed with tunnels and caves. Sound might travel a long way on a current of air. Mr. Pluto's bellows is a huge thing that can produce a mighty draft of air and the sound to go with it. Just an old bellows? Thomas said glumly. They were hurrying back across the lawn toward the house. Mrs. Small was standing in the doorway, waving to them to come even faster. We're going to be late if we sit down to breakfast, Mr. Small said. But I saw hoe cakes, Papa, a mess of them. So did I, Thomas, said Mr. Small. So did I. He began to run. Thomas sprinted along with him, letting out a whoop loud enough to be heard for a month of Sundays.